Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This video is 3 days worth of getting things finished. All the projects that I half started around the house. There's some gardening in there, some woodwork, some painting. I thought I was going to get everything achieved in one school hour day. How wrong I was. So let's get started and cross some things off that list. First up is this gorgeous solid Remo Buffet. Years ago I made this piece over. I painted the entire base white, sanded the top back, restained it a lighter colour, but the three original shelves were actually wine racks. Now we're not wine drinkers, and to sand back the really fiddly shaped shelves and use a lot of paint to get a full coverage on them, it just wasn't worth it for how we were going to use the piece. So it's just kind of sat here for years with flimsy makeshift shelves. So firstly, it needed a good clean. Then I measured up the inner tracks to cut some scrap plywood to create some sturdier, more convenient shelving.
My shoes up if I want. Let yourself be free and maybe you will find that there is more to life than being pretty. Honey, let's just face it. You can do better. Let me show you what a good time looks like. You can do better. So much better. I don't fit into your box. Beauty queens without no flaws. You can do better. I dare you to be wilder. I don't fit into your box. Beauty queens without no flaws. You can do better.
So here I've cut the shelves to fit, tried them out for size, given them a really fine sand, and came in with the same stain as I originally used on the top of the buffet. Now the top is of course Remo and the ply is of course pine, so the same stain has come up differently on the different types of wood, and because of this I wasn't happy with the final look. It might not be showing entirely on camera, but the shelves were just too orange toned, especially for a piece that we were potentially looking to keep for many more years to come. But to sort that problem meant another trip to Bunnings, which had to wait until the next day. In the meantime, on another scrap of ply, my daughter painted the test pots that I'd had in the garage for weeks at this point to help us decide on a final colour for the front door of our new home. And we left that overnight as well to reassess the dried colours in the morning.
You can do better. I dare you to be wilder. I don't fit into your box. Beauty queens without no flaws.
On to day 2, and this day's mission was to use some more leftover wood from other projects to create a matching crate topper for our smaller dog's crate to match the large wooden crate I finished last week. Now, unlike our large dog, our little one doesn't like sleeping in here. It's mainly used for when we have people over or need to lock him away safely for any reason. So the topper was more for aesthetic reasons to tie in with the rest of the furniture that I've been making over recently.
Before you make up your mind that I'm nowhere to find, I'm standing right here. I know that I told you we're over. I swear that I'm sober. Just listen, I miss you. And I know that I said all these things, but now when you're with her, I can see that you miss me. Would you stay till the morning light? Or would you follow me? Or would you let it be if I leave tonight? We could do this right. We'll find the remedy. Or would you stay with me?
Because I was using scrap wood for this, I needed to join 2 smaller pieces together to create the size I required, and while this was clamped, I ended up popping to Bunnings to grab some moulding to complete that buffet from yesterday.
Till the morning light, till the morning light, yeah. Maybe I'm just too weak, maybe I'm just afraid of being alone. Well, I don't care.
I cut these to size and double checked them before spraying them with the same semi-gloss white I'd originally used on the body of the buffet, so they'll tie in seamlessly. I also had to take around 1 centimetre off the back of every shelf as I'd cut these to sit flush with the other cupboards, and I needed to make space for the moulding to sit on them without sticking out from the edge.
But now when you're with her, I can see that you miss me. Would you stay till the morning light? Or
Towards the end of this day, it was over 30 degrees, and everything always takes longer when you're trying to film it at the same time. So I ended up completing the outer edge of the wooden top I'd created earlier in the morning off camera, just using some flat moulding pieces, some wood glue, and a few gold head nails. I also used wood glue along the wood joins. This will dry clear and the excess will sand away tomorrow. Later in the evening, and by the light of evening TV, I wood glued the shelving moulding on and taped them in place to dry overnight.
We could do this right. We'll find the remedy. Or would you stay with me now?
On to the last day, day 3, and it was Sunday at this stage and too early in the morning just yet to be letting rip with the electric sander and making lots of noise. So I turned to repotting some hydrangeas I propagated a few weeks earlier that were now ready for their own pots, and a couple of larger plants I'd grown from hardwood cuttings that were thriving and needed a little extra room.
I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I just wanna feel alive. It's just what I do when I'm out, so try not to hold me down, feel alive.
This guy also stopped by to join me. He usually lives on my rhododendron plant, but seems to be making the rounds of all my potted plants at the moment, so I popped him back where I usually find him.
Hold me down, feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at the beautiful stars, I wanna take a trip to Mars. Nothing can break me, no, nothing.
We've got this long covered corridor in our garden, which has been great for growing all my baby plants. Here's all the newly potted plants all lined up, ready to settle in here for the autumn and winter until they're a bit bigger, and one eager cutting that has flowered before all the others.
Lay my troubles to rest, blow the smoke through my cigarette. City lights looking fine.
With some leftover soil, I topped up my inside palm tree pot, one of those jobs I'd been meaning to do for weeks but just never got around to.
No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make.
It was then late enough in the day to finally sand my crate topper down.
It's just what I do when I'm out, so try not to hold me down, feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars, I wanna drive a faster car. Nothing can break me, no, nothing can break me. Try not to hold me down.
I then gave it around 3 coats of a lime wash to stain and seal it, and also tie in with last week's crate that I made.
Nothing can break me, no, nothing can break me.
Already a massive day by this point, but seeing as I already had lots of tools out, I thought I'd finish off one last job that I've been putting off for weeks. We had recently removed all the radiator heating we had throughout the house, and there were still some holes in the bedrooms that needed to be puttied, sanded and painted. I then replaced where the radiator was with a convection heater, which I'll thank myself for later this winter. It's going to be our last winter in our home, crossed fingers.
Mistakes. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes.
And this was my busy 3 days, a ton of items ticked off the list. It was an absolute laugh. I initially thought I'd get this all banged out in just one school day, but so satisfying to get all those pesky tasks completed, use up some scrap wood, and I'm now able to move on to the next project with a clear mind. Do subscribe for more homey DIY videos, and I'll catch you next project.